To order, please. At this time, myself, Grant Baumgartner, Sherry Mara, Lisa Lane, and Catherine James are present. Kelly Byers is on her way, so she will be joining us shortly. And that is my roll call. B is ordinances for the Travelers Rest Homeowners Tax Relief and Critical Projects. I do make a motion to approve ordinance O-11-26 for Travelers Rest Homeowners Tax Relief and Critical Projects Sales Tax Referendum. That is my motion. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
Sorry.
All right, thank you for that. I've got a little bit of information. Let me give us some overview of all of this. Because this is a special called committee meeting and in light of the amount of business needing to be covered today, contrary to my usual protocol of allowing full council participation, I'm asking those not on the committee to wait with their comments or questions until the full council meeting, which is immediately following this committee meeting. If the matter we are about to discuss passes this committee, we will have full council participation at first reading at the regular council meeting shortly. All right, the South Carolina legislature has given us, Travelers Rest, the unique opportunity to lower property taxes within our municipality. This seems to be a complicated question, but our city administrator, Ms. Shannon Herman, has put together a presentation that breaks this proposal down. Ms. Herman, I turn this over to you.
Thank you, Chair Baumgartner. Good evening. Tonight, we are introducing a proposal that could lower property taxes for Travelers Rest homeowners while funding the improvements of our growing community needs. South Carolina's new Municipal Tax Relief Act lets us adopt a temporary 1% local sales tax, but only with voter approval at the November 3rd election via a citizen referendum. Because Travelers Rest is a regional destination, we believe roughly 61% of the revenues would come from visitors, not residents. Over 8 years, this tax is projected to raise about $19.8 million. By law, at least 20%, nearly $4 million, goes directly to homeowner property tax relief, with the average homeowner seeing a rebate of about $360 annually. The remaining $15.8 million will fund sidewalks, parks, parking, roads, and stormwater infrastructure, critical infrastructure needs, with no new debt and no operating costs. The result, visitors will help pay for infrastructure that they use, homeowners will get property tax relief, and Travelers Rest can invest in its future. One clarification I'd like to make from the beginning is the definition of a visitor. This term has varied meanings depending on the agency or business looking at this category. For the purpose of tonight's presentation, the term visitor will lovingly refer to any person who does not reside within the city limits of Travelers Rest, or otherwise a non-resident. So what is this tax? It's a new municipal tool that was granted in the General Assembly in May of 2026. To be clear, about a month and a half ago. Only cities which have never passed a capital sales tax are eligible. That's counties, cities residing in counties which have never passed a capital sales tax. That's Greenville County, Oconee County, and Beaufort County only. This is a temporary 1% sales tax. It may not exceed 8 years. It would run from May of 2027 to April of 2035. It provides first, homeowner tax relief, and second, funds for community improvements. The property tax relief requirement is a minimum of 20% of revenues going to the property tax relief. The remaining funding may be used for core government services, including protecting public safety, supporting economic vitality, and maintaining critical infrastructure. Local voters must approve this opportunity via a referendum at the general election, November 3rd, 2026. Let's begin with what is not eligible to be taxed. What is exempt? Groceries, prescriptions, gasoline. Groceries are defined as unprepared foods, those that are eligible for SNAP benefits. How does this work? You spend $1, 1 cent goes into the 1% sales tax revenue pot. For every dollar received in the sales tax revenue pot, it is divided by law, 20 cents to the homeowner tax relief and 80 cents to the community improvement projects. Again, groceries, prescriptions, and gas at the pump are exempt from the tax. Why does this matter? Sales tax is different than property tax. Property tax is paid by homeowners only. It does not capture tourism, and it does not grow with tourism. A municipal sales tax allows both residents and visitors to pay into the pot. This captures visitor spending and grows with our economic activity. We have many challenges today for which this would be a great tool. We have aging infrastructure. There is an increasing cost to construction. Inflation makes everything more expensive. We have limited municipal revenue options as we try to operate very lean, and we have a growing community. The expectations of this opportunity, it is a new city tool. The homeowners will receive over the 8 years about $3.9 million in property tax relief. We would generate about $15.8 million in additional revenues for critical community projects. Our visitors could help participate. This anticipates our future needs as a city, and it does not add debt. How does the property tax relief work? First and foremost, the 20% of revenues paid for the homeowner's tax relief comes available. Excuse me, let me get to my notes. Secondly, there's an automatic credit applied to the owner-occupied homes shown on the annual property tax bill, which is sent out by the county. The property tax relief is tied to the value of the home. It works out so that roughly 1/10 of a penny for every $1 of taxable value of the home goes into the property tax relief. We've generated a chart here that begins to anticipate per home values an anticipated rebate for 2028. At the top, what you see is the total property tax value of the City of Travelers Rest. You see the anticipated 20% sales tax for 2028 at $438,000, and then the math works out to the roughly 0.00111120 of a penny per $1 of taxable home value. How does this rebate impact those with a homestead exemption? Fortunately for them, the rebate is applied first to the taxable value and then the homestead exemption, further lowering their property tax burden. The average home value in the City of Travelers Rest is roughly $324,500. Thus, the average homeowner could anticipate a tax rebate of about $360 in 2028. What would be the annual financial impact? Let's look at 2028 first. We anticipate sales tax revenues. This is off of the South Carolina Department of Revenue taxable data for the City of Travelers Rest, our city limits. We anticipate the sales tax revenue to be about $2.1 million, maybe 2.2 if we round accurately. 20% of the property tax relief comes to $438,257. 80% leaves $1.753 million for critical projects. The average homeowner, this is using Greenville County GIS parcel data. We have 1,500 homeowners in town, 1,525 homeowners in town, owner-occupied homes. The average owner-occupied home is valued at $324,531. Thus, there would be a rebate of about $360. Using taxable data from SCDOR in Travelers Rest city limits and comparing that to the U.S. Department of Labor statistics for annualized average household spending, it works out to roughly the same in both categories. We anticipate that the average annual household municipal sales tax paid via this law would be $300. Thus, we would expect a benefit to the homeowners of an average homeowner in an average household of about $60. Please note, this will vary depending on the household contributions as well as their individual spending habits. This is a rough estimate. The projections for the City of Travelers Rest over 8 years is to collect roughly $19.7 million in total in the local sales tax, leaving $3.9 million for homeowner rebate and $15.8 million to capital projects. This grows over time with a 3.5% escalation, which is the recommended escalation by SCDOR, Department of Revenue. Staff has taken a first stab at a project list. This is to be considered by council, and it can change up until your final reading of the ordinance. What goes in the ordinance and on the referendum question cannot change. So voters, once this ordinance goes to second reading, if it gets to that point, you can be assured that these are the projects that will be completed. They are divided by tiers. These could also be called phases. So tier 1 projects, we anticipate roughly the first half of the money coming in going to those projects. A regional pond at Trailblazer Park, this is not in any specific order, this is all tier 1. An Old Buncombe Road road renovation, Gateway Park access from Center Street, Gateway Drive coming all the way through the Gateway Park, a splash pad, pickleball courts, a Center Street connection from the Swamp Rabbit Trail, Gateway Park having a sidewalk loop going all the way through it, Trailblazer Park having a sidewalk connector connecting the upper and lower parcels and throughout the park, improving a parking lot on 115 Henderson Drive, which is at Gateway Park, and improving the traffic circle at Little Texas. Tier 2 would be a skate park, stadium seating in both parks, feature playground, that would be anticipated for Gateway Park. Additional parking lots at Trailblazer Drive and North Poinsett Highway and State Park Road and Old Buncombe Road, as well as Center Street. Swamp Rabbit Trail connections, these are sidewalks going from neighborhoods to the Swamp Rabbit Trail to connect folks to the trail and to amenities to and through town. Foothills Road, Swamp Rabbit Trail connection, Williams Road, North Main Street, Foothills, Watson, McElhaney, Saddleback Court, Main Street, and South End Circle are the sidewalks anticipated in Tier 2. Why should we consider this tax in Travelers Rest? We believe that this tax has the opportunity to reduce homeowner property taxes in the amount of about $3 million over 8 years. We expect it to be about $360 for an average home, owner-occupied home in Travelers Rest. The revenues reduce the burden on residents while funding current and future infrastructure projects to the tune of about $15.8 million over 8 years. The voters would approve this tax. City Council will approve an ordinance with a question to go on the referendum and a specific project list. If that is completed, the voters must approve the tax. This would be done on the November 3rd, 2026 ballot. The time frame is limited by law to 8 years, May of 2027 to April of 2035. If there were to be another round of this, it would be a complete new referendum, again question approved by City Council, gone to the ballot for the voters to approve. So this is only an 8-year opportunity for this round. Travelers Rest is a regional destination economy, and this is important. We have high sales volume compared to our population, and our taxable concentration is in discretionary spending. Restaurants, retail, and tourism goods are big sales items for us in Travelers Rest. A 1% sales tax is a way to capture that external visitor demand, and we anticipate that about 61% of our sales, and we believe this is a very conservative estimate, 61% of our sales and taxable spending in TR is generated by our visitors. This graph here shows you kind of a visitor versus resident population report. What you see is the bottom line in the dark blue. Those are our commuters who come into town daily to work with us. The turquoise blue, slightly above that, that's our residents. And then the coral color up above, those are our visitors. And what you can see is that we're very highly populated by visitors, which is fantastic. It's great for economic development. Those two anomaly dips, those are ice storms. So we did not have great visitors those days. But this is important to get a real understanding of who would be participating in this sales tax with us. Again, Travelers Rest is a regional market. So let's look at the sales tax revenues and how they are compiled. We have a resident retail sales that we anticipate to be paid by about 39% of the total value from the residents. We anticipate that 46 of it would be from our non-resident retail sales, and we anticipate about 15% to be our overnight tourism. These statistics are gathered via multiple resources, including Visit Greenville's recent report that came out, SCDOR, and our visitor orientation statistics. When we talk about visitor orientation, I think it's important to understand kind of how this works. And this is a customer origin analysis. We ran analysis for most of the retail opportunities inside the City of Travelers Rest. What you see up here is a small sampling of those. Townwide, about 61.9% came from non-residents. Visitations came from non-residents. We can't tell you how much they spent, but we can tell you how many were non-residents in here. That's from outside the 29690 zip code. While that zip code encompasses the majority of the city, a large portion of that zip code exists outside the city. So we believe this is a very conservative estimate. There is a small portion of the city which does not reside in that zip code. However, it is a small portion, and again, there is a vast portion of that zip code that does not reside in city limits. So we feel confident that this is a very conservative estimate. If that visitor spend goes up, the rebate and the burden to the residents goes down. Or the rebate goes up, the burden to the residents goes down. Where does the money going? All right, so we've tried to map out for you via, basic project type, how the money is planned to be spent in the staff proposed project list you just saw. About 31% to Parks and Rec, 25% to sidewalks and trails connectivity, 19% to roads and traffic, 16% to parking, and 8% to stormwater, which is our regional pond to go in Trailblazer Park. We believe that this list supports smart growth, improves connectivity, advances arts and culture, enhances our small town character. Those are the 4 core values of our master plan, and meets with the fiscal year 2027 council goals. This would not create new debt. It does not spawn operating costs, and we believe it to total to about $15.8 million over the 8 years. Another way to look at this is to break it out by tier. And what you see is in the first tier, we plan to tackle at least or something in each category. Why do we have 2 tiers? Well, some of these projects are going to take time to plan out and to design. Some of them are shovel ready and ready to go. They're projects that we've been considering, council has been considering, in some cases a number of years. We are waiting on our Parks Master Plan to finalize, but it's almost finalized. I would anticipate that to wrap up in the next month. So we have a good vision here, but some of this will take time to put together. So tier 1 is sort of our shovel ready, immediate projects, and tier 2 are those that we anticipate planning a little further. Tier 1 is a total of $7.6 million, Tier 2, $8.2 million. Tier 1 proposed projects by map. So you can kind of look at the legend here and get an idea of what we're looking at. We've got some parking on Henderson Drive. That's Gateway Park. Pickleball courts anticipated to go in at Gateway Park. You see in the darker blue line is a sidewalk loop going through Gateway Park. The lighter blue line is park access, driving access coming through the park. There is an improved drive from Center Street coming on and a sidewalk connector coming on in Gateway Park. In Trailblazer Park, we look forward to a splash pad and the Trailblazer Regional Pond, which will have a walking track going around the pond. We also see some street renovations at Old Buncombe Road, which provide on-street parking. And the regional pond will be filled via stormwater improvements, bringing the stormwater off the city's parcels into that retention pond. You also see in the larger chart there, the Little Texas Road roundabout. I think we can all agree it could use some aesthetic improvements. And you see some sidewalk projects coming down Center Street and into Gateway Park. Just wanted to let you know kind of the rough plans of the park improvements that we're looking at. So you do see this is Gateway Park, the main road coming all the way through off of Center Street. We'll have an access drive. The main roadway is intended to be able to be blocked off by bollards, so it's usable during the day of regular hours, but we can bollard it off and program it like a festival field. We do have a feature playground programmed in here, as well as 3 pickleball courts plus the dual painting of 1 tennis court, leaving 2 tennis courts / 4 pickleball courts coming on immediately in this area. We do anticipate improving the stadium seating in here and the parking, adding the parking over on Henderson Drive, we believe will be a big enhancement. Trailblazer Park, this is again our kind of working conceptual programming here. What's important about this drawing at the moment is the regional pond that goes in, as well as the Old Buncombe connector, some parking, and the upper and lower sidewalk connectivity throughout the park, and the splash pad. These are precedent imagery concepts, which means these exist in other places. They're not designed for Travelers Rest. It is important to remember that, but we are considering a Gateway Park skate park plaza and feature playground. We are considering a Trailblazer Park, splash pad, and then multi pickleball courts per the demand of the community. And this is in a result to the Parks Master Plan community survey work. This is an image of the pond going in at Trailblazer Park. It'll have a walking path going around it that would be roughly a 1/4 mile, maybe 1/3 of a mile around the pond. Little Texas traffic circle, getting those poles out of the way and doing some pretty planting, but still making it clear, drivable for a fire chief, but making it clear where the cars are not to cross the line. Tier 2 proposed projects include the skate park, the feature playground, and Center Street parking at Gateway Park, parking at Trailblazer Drive, stadium seating, and parking at Old Buncombe Road in Trailblazer Park, and then significant connectivity from the subdivisions via sidewalks to the Swamp Rabbit Trail. So, in summary, we expect to bring in about $3.9 million in homeowner tax relief over the 8 years and $15.8 million in critical projects revenues. We estimate that the annual project revenue for 2028 will be about $1.7 million. We are not bonding, so we will be held to the revenues that we bring in annually and anything that we want to fund out of our general fund and reimburse. $1.3 million we anticipate to come from visitors, $854,000 from residents. We estimate that the average homeowner rebate in 2028 for an average priced home, taxable value home, will be about $360. The timeline is restricted specifically from May 1st, 2027 to April 30th, 2035. This does require voter approval via a referendum that says November 4th. I apologize, that's November 3rd, 2026. We estimate that the average homeowner spending the average annual spending allotment would benefit from this, but to the tune of about $60 in 2028, as in they will come out $60 to the positive. I think it would be important to look at opportunities and risks. We believe that the opportunities, that this is a relatively stable revenue based on past year's projections. We believe that it's a great opportunity for property tax relief for our homeowners, that this provides a significant revenue source for infrastructure investment, and that the visitors will participate at a high level. Risks, sales tax vary with the economy, and capital projects require careful prioritization and planning. There is some allowance in the ordinance for City Council to evaluate if a project needs to be stricken or moved based on very specific criteria, and we do have our attorney here who could speak further to that if necessary. So I'll close with the public process. Tonight we are having our Ways and Means Committee. If it approves that Ways and Means in your vote, this will move to first reading immediately after. August 6th, we invite the public to come to a council workshop and to participate in a public hearing at that time. August 10th will be the final reading for this. We have to have the referendum question, if approved, to the Election Commission by August 14th, thus the condensed timeline. August 4th, please note all voters need to be registered to vote if they plan to vote, and then you have November 3rd election. I'd be happy to take any questions at this time.
Ms. Herman, if you'd just give me a few moments, let me go through a few things, a few highlights that I've noted throughout this also, and then we'll allow committee here to have some discussion. Um, the, not all cities, again, not all cities in South Carolina are given the opportunity to add this tax. The legislature didn't open this to every municipality in South Carolina. That's actually part of the reason this meeting is being held tonight. In addition to the fact that our municipal association state convention is later this week, and our queen president of the association, our queen mayor, Brandy Amadon here, is president of the association. So we as a council want to attend that conference and support her in her role. Therefore, we've changed our meeting several weeks ago to tonight. This tax thing seems like it came up quickly, and truthfully, it has. The legislature only at the end of May passed this legislation, leaving little time for the municipalities to place it on the November ballot without acting quickly. The vote of council tonight, if this Ways and Means Committee first sends it on, is to simply put the referendum question on the November registered Travelers Rest voters ballot. Travelers Rest City Council is not adding this tax. This is not a vote by council implementing or adding the tax. Our voting on this measure is to send this to the voters of the city to decide. This is what's called a referendum question. And a referendum means the city is not voted to enact anything. Rather, the question is being passed on to the voters to voice their opinion by a yes or no vote in November. A yes vote tonight in this Ways and Means Committee is to send the question on to full council for consideration. Travelers Rest adding the 1% sales tax is the only proposal including property tax relief to our citizens. If the tax is voter approved, the sales taxes increase is for 8 years, May 2027 through April of 2035. Any extension would require a complete new referendum and a voter approval of a new list of projects. The city sales tax is only for the projects that we have listed, that we've seen. First and foremost, property tax relief for the residents in our city is the top point on our list. Then second on our list will be to fund essential or critical infrastructure and related facilities projects listed in the tier of projects as presented in the ordinance. This city proposal is separate from any other city in the state or any other county question that may be on the ballot. The legislature has given a few municipalities the option of adding this question to the November ballot in order to benefit the local residents with property tax relief and allow the city to fund essential or critical infrastructure and related facilities projects that they wouldn't usually take on. Approving this referendum question in this manner is only within the city of TR. In this way, we, as your governing body, are able to provide you the opportunity for property tax relief. It also allows us to capitalize on the spending of those that come into the city and use our police and fire services. They use our roads and parks, and they spend their money here. We are able to use some of their spending dollars directly for Travelers Rest use. This simply lifts some of the burden off of local property owners and moves it to those coming into the city utilizing our city services. This tax allows those visiting our city to contribute to the financial property tax relief onto our homeowners. And according to our research, it appears that we will be able to provide roughly $100 in homeowners tax relief per $100,000 in appraised value. That is roughly, okay? Our goal is to not only provide property tax relief, but to also allow those visiting the city to contribute to the funding of the listed essential or critical infrastructure and related facilities projects. On to some full disclosure. Greenville County Council does have the option of also adding a 1% sales tax option as a separate referendum question on the voting questions. The difference is that the county has no tax relief, and at this point, we don't know if any of their projects will be for Travelers Rest. Again, this isn't about raising taxes or raising sales tax. It's about the opportunity for the city to support economic vitality and maintain critical infrastructure within Travelers Rest, which benefits not only our residents, but also those who travel to enjoy what Travelers Rest has to offer. Our voting committee will be to approve the ordinance and referendum question, thereby sending this matter on to full council for additional discussion and first reading. What we're doing in this, we're seeing no additional staff positions created or projects that are going to need renewed yearly funding or renewed operating costs. That's very important. And I want to make everyone aware again, the August 6th council workshop and public hearing. I know at this point we have had very little public input on this. We're going to allow you all, the public, to have input at this August 6th council meeting, or you may contact any of us on council and share your opinions that way also. That's what I have to offer right now. I'm going to open this up to others on the committee that would like to ask questions or have some comments.
What am I, just for the public, so what is our current rate of tax for state tax?
Our current rate is 6%.
Okay, so this would up it to 7.
Put up it to 7.
Looking at 20 or 43 of the 46 counties have had a tax increase, a penny tax. So ideally, the state of South Carolina is already 7 to 9%, except for those 3 counties that have not. So even if Greenville were to do their penny tax, we still would be reasonable taxed according to what is around us, correct?
Councilmember Mara, and it's a good question. In the ordinance, in the state act that allows for this, there is a limit where the sales and use tax could not go above 9% anyway.
Okay.
So we are at the 6%. So should the city of Travelers Rest pass this, it would go to 7%. Should the county also pass it, it would go to 8%, which is still below the 9% limit.
And as far as the projects that we talked about, you were saying that we can take off a project but not add a project. Is that right?
There is a small consideration in the ordinance, and I would invite Attorney Childs to speak further to this, should there be something that stops the project from happening. If you'd like Attorney Childs to come up and answer further, he could.
Yeah.
You can't really add a
Okay. As far as cost of the project, I know these are estimates. Would that be a reason that we could take off a project because cost had increased so much? Have we padded that for inflation? What costs now versus what's going to cost 5 years, 6 years, 8 years from now?
So all of our cost estimates include a 30% contingency. So typically when you're working in the field, you try to work with a 20% contingency. So we are allowing for an additional contingency to assume that should we have an event such as COVID where we saw massive inflation or massive disruption in the market, that may not be sufficient, and you may see that. But we anticipate that if all things operate as typical over the time continuum, the 30% should be adequate over most projects.
And just one more question about the projects. There's a lot of sidewalks involved, which is great to connect everything, which is, I think, our goal. Do we know if the sidewalk projects, are they going to be the standard size sidewalk, or would they be the larger size that we've done?
I believe they're anticipated as the standard pedestrian sidewalks that connect, but we could confirm that before our next
Depending
meeting.
on the project, okay.
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
I was going to ask a question about the costing for you to explain that for everybody else. I know I've already asked that personally. The other question, the $300 that you have that you say is the average that most people spend on sales tax? Is that at the 6% rate or the 7% rate?
Well, it was run in two different directions.
Okay.
One specifically for Travelers Rest. So that would be at the current 6% rate based on the South Carolina Department of Revenue's actual taxable sales revenues for the city limits of Travelers Rest. So that was one way that we ran the numbers. We accounted for the 39% resident spend, and then we divided it by our actual number of households. Came up with a number of $299 per household. To fact check ourselves and to say, was this a relative term, we went to the United States Statistics Bureau, excuse me, and considered their consumer expenditure survey. According to the consumer expenditure survey, the average household expends around $80,000 per year on taxable expenditures, and that would be, if we did the math on that, was $312,000. So we think that $300 per average household is probably a realistic number.
I just want to say thank you for all the staff and you all for coming up with this in such a short period of time. I know that was a lot of work and you did a great job, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Could I interrupt real quick? So we have an audience tonight, which is really great. We always appreciate people being here, but just to inform you, we had a 5:30 Ways and Means meeting. So that's still going on, and I don't want to rush the committee at all, but just know if you're sitting here, you're going to learn a little about finances of Travelers Rest while you're here, and then we will start the 6 o'clock council meeting after this discussion. So we can't start it before, but we can start it after this business. So appreciate you being here.
Bunch of questions.
Okay, I came in a few minutes late, so apologize if I missed you saying this already. I saw the number of owner-occupied homes, which was around 1,500. Did you have a percentage of population of TR that is in an owner-occupied home?
About 55%.
Okay. And I imagine a large percentage of the non-owner-occupied housing is Furman.
There is a percentage of non-owner occupied housing in Furman. Interestingly, the majority of that housing, or a substantial number of that housing, belongs to the Furman Foundation, so they do not pay property taxes to begin with.
Okay. That's interesting to know. Thanks. Hold on. I have a lot of questions. So at the public hearing, will the public have opportunity to weigh in on what projects we decide, or like what's their opportunity for engagement there?
Councilmember Byers, so how we envision that working is a workshop with council at the first portion of the meeting, in which council would actively request project values or something of that nature, additional questions after you have time to sit and think and consider, and then the second half of it being a public hearing. So individuals could sign up to speak and could bring any concerns, questions, et cetera, to you.
So you'll go into more detail about the specific projects then?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, let me clarify to the extent that we can, because it's all just off the conceptuals at this point.
Sure, I understand. Did you say what is not covered, like what is not taxed as part of this?
Councilmember Byers, we did, but it's worth reiterating. No tax on groceries, gas, or prescriptions.
Thank you. So looking at all sides of this, we talked about the benefits for property owners within city limits and how much of this revenue will come from people outside of city limits. Can you talk about the pros and cons of this ordinance for renters and business owners in the city?
I think I'll slide back up to the opportunities and risks analysis here. And I think the pros of it for those who are not getting the property tax relief is that this is a major investment in the economic vitality, public safety, and critical infrastructure here in Travelers Rest. We know that parks and sidewalks, adequate parking, things of that nature that are planned in these projects, they contribute to the economic vitality of town. They contribute to home home rates, they contribute to business commerce rates and things of that nature. As we have people appropriately utilizing structures and infrastructure, we noted that there's great public safety benefits that come with that. This has improved access to opportunities for fitness, for wellness, for community gathering. Public assembly is one line item that's specifically pulled out into the ordinance. So I would believe those would be the pros to anyone who's here in Travelers Rest, including the visitors participating in this. Obviously, the cons are, they're not getting the property tax relief. And so, that benefit would not apply to them, whereas the other benefits would apply to everyone who's here and participating.
You mentioned that one of the pros of this opportunity is that they're one-time costs and you're not adding, anything additional to our budget that's based on property tax, and that there's no operating costs. Can you explain a little bit more by what you mean of no operating costs? Like, I'm thinking that there's maintenance involved every year. How would that be absorbed into the budget?
By the no operating costs, specifically in my presentation, that speaks to that the revenues do not cover any operating costs. However, the projects selected are intended to have very low maintenance and operating costs, with the exception of a splash pad. I think we all need to be realistic with a splash pad.
That's the example I wrote down. Yeah.
However, that was the number 2 request in the parks survey. So I think when we look at what is the risk to the city, financially for something of that nature, is it a project the city would take on anyway? This is a great opportunity to fund it. It's not an inexpensive venture. When you look at the revenues that are being generated here, it's a significant opportunity compared to our budget. So, if you're bringing in, $1.7 million in capital, opportunities here, then, that's more than we would spend in any capital improvement year. And overall, $15 million over 8 years. It took us 10 years to get together for an $11 million Poinsett streetscape, which is a massive improvement, but it is a significant contribution to the capital fund opportunity for the city.
I do think it's a great way to expedite a lot of, our parks master plan that was developed with a lot of public input. 2 more questions. So these are projections of what we might receive in 8 years. As we mentioned, things happen. If we don't hit this target, how do we prioritize what projects are implemented?
Councilmember Byers, thank you. Yes, the prioritization is the tiered structure. So you begin with the projects in Tier 1, and then once you've allocated out 70%, we can begin planning projects of Tier 2, which should give us a really good read. By that point, we'd be halfway through the time period as to how we will get down the list of Tier 2.
Well, so you mentioned in the breakdown of Tier 1 and Tier 2, you said these are not listed in priority within the tiers. So, if we got to, well, I assume at some point we would need to prioritize the tiers. Is that something that is voted on, the prioritization, or just the list of projects?
I might refer to Attorney Childs to the specifics on that one.
Robbie, would you mind talking into the microphone so everyone can hear you?
Could you repeat the question?
So it's currently broken down Tier 1 and Tier 2. When Shannon was presenting, she said within the tiers, it is not prioritized. Let's say we don't have the full amount, 15.8 million come to us. Where do we prioritize? How is that legally done?
Tier 1 is the priority.
Can you talk into the?
Tier 1 is the priority.
Sure, but let's say we get into Tier 2 and then we're not earning $15.8 million because something happens. How do we prioritize the projects?
I think that's going to be a decision of council at the time. Probably would be have to do an amendment to the ordinance to modify the projects. At that point, might have to go back to a public hearing on that.
Okay, and I have 1.5 more questions. Actually. In the ordinance language, it has on page 3, like the projects for the purpose of raising amounts specified below for the following purposes, and it has connectors and sidewalks, public parking, public assembly infrastructure, et cetera. I know that you presented this to us because it's legally accurate, but are we bound to this dollar amount for the type of project, or are we bound to the itemized list that we just presented?
I think you're down to the estimates that the statute requires you to provide. And so I think you can't go over them. And so you have to stay within the bounds of what your estimate is.
I guess what I'm asking for clarification is, are we bound to drainage infrastructure, or are we bound to the pond? Like the specific project?
Here,
In this language of, okay, we're voting, if the citizens say yes, they're voting for, $1,250,000 for drainage infrastructure. Can we be flexible within the drainage infrastructure, or does it have to be spent on the itemized project list?
we spent on the itemized project.
Great, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you. Okay, and lastly, the traffic circle at Little Texas Road. You said fire trucks can still go through. When it was installed originally, we were given the reason for its garish appearance is so that distribution trucks could get through. That's still possible.
That's correct. It would have a roll curb so that if the truck clipped it going around due to its size, the curb would be able to handle that. The car would not be disturbed. However, there would be clear separation from the rest of traffic.
Great, thank you.
I have questions regarding the statute from the General Assembly. At the end of the 8 years, April 30th, 2035, we will put a referendum up to the citizens to vote again to extend this. Does the state have any say-so on whether we get to do that? Could they take this away from us?
Act does not address that question. I think it's going to need some further legislative explanations between now and the next 8 years. I don't think it's going to be an automatic referendum unless it's authorized by statute. Right now, it's not authorized by statute. We have to wait and see.
Okay, so say they do extend it or renew it from the state level, then we will put up a new referendum.
More than likely, they will require a new referendum.
Okay. Is there a gap there then? The 8 years ends, we have to do a new referendum. Will our citizens experience a gap in that tax relief until we have it voted?
It's possible, but I expect that this seems like a legislative effort to give tax relief. And I think what they're testing really is the public's reaction to it. And if it's successful, if people are pleased by the results, the tax relief goes well to taxpayers, the projects are properly handled, I think they'll authorize a good bit more.
But we would still need to go through this same process again.
Probably will be required to renew it through a referendum, I expect.
Thank you.
I have a couple more questions. If we receive more than what is estimated in the sales tax, will that money go towards capital projects or additional property tax relief? Or how does that work?
I think the ordinance itself deals with that and talks about additional taxpayer relief. If we have additional funds above what the projects are estimated for, then the council's preference, as in the ordinance, is to provide that for additional tax relief. And so that's the objective of that provision.
And then the order, and obviously we have to do tier 1 first before tier 2, unless extenuating circumstances. The order for tier 1 projects, is that a staff decision or council vote?
Council vote.
Kind of along those lines as far as if it continues for 8 years, but to back it up, and this may be a known thing, but starting in May of 2027 and then ending in April of 2035, how is that tax relief on those beginning date and ending date? Is it prorated, or does it start on the actual, like our taxes come on January 1st to be paid. So starting in May of 1 year, right, and then ending in April towards the end, how does that play out with the tax relief?
I think they've got to figure that out. I think that's going to be a little bit harder than we would expect, but I think it's going to have to probably be the following year. We'll see their tax notices go out November, December, which will then contain the tax relief that started back in May.
So it would be prorated for '27 and be fully tax relief in
You would
'28?
expect they would get it in there for the full year into '28.
Okay.
The Department of Revenue has to do all those things, and they interpret these statutes and really drive the allocation of these sales and use taxes. Their interpretations are pretty important,
Right.
and we've had several discussions about those. But I expect they're going to have to develop a mechanism that we hope to be prorated the first year.
Would we know that before this goes to the ballot?
I'm not sure that we would.
I just have a picky request because of my numbers and accounting. Can we compare apples to apples and do the sales tax, like what people spend estimated based on the 7% versus the 6% that you said you calculated, to compare that with the property tax? I know you have 300 and 360. That makes, 'cause you said you estimated it at
Yes, I see what you're
6%.
saying. Yes,
To be more accurate.
yep, we can work on that.
Can
Um,
you, I'm sorry.
You can go.
I just want to make sure I understood what you said. Can you confirm that this would be combined with anyone who is receiving the homestead exemption?
That is correct. So first, your rebate would be calculated and deducted from your tax bill, and then the homestead exemption would be applied after that.
And I think one of the questions the public would want, and that we need to, I don't know if we have a plan for this, but in order, like, say this passes and we do all this, because it's a 1 penny tax in the amount that it is, do we have a plan in order to be transparent? Are we going to have like a dashboard where it's an annual thing that people, or per project, that we can look at and be open about everything?
Councilmember Romero, fantastic question, and thank you for bringing that up. Yes, and the ordinance requires that an annual report be published so that we have full transparency of the collections and utilization.
How does this affect our, like, manufacturing companies? I know a lot of them, sell wholesale, so they don't collect sales tax, but is that going to affect their sales?
That's a great question. I'll look into that for you for the public workshop.
Any other questions from committee members at this point? All right, hearing none, then thank you all for the comments on this. All those in favor of going ahead and moving this, because we do have a motion and a second, those in favor of moving it on? All right, we are full in that complete, yes. All right, that's what we have on Ways and Means right now. Do I hear a motion, or I make a motion to close Ways and Means? Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. We are finished, ma'am.
All right,
Turn this
great.
over to Ms.
We
Mayor.
will allow our additional council members to come on up. Again, for our guests that are here, welcome to our City of Traverse Council meeting. You just sat through a Ways and Means meeting. Maybe it was your first. Congratulations. So a big part of what we do. We'll now move into our City Council meeting. I give my gavel back, Grant. I call to order the City of Traverse Council meeting for Tuesday, July the 14th. If you will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, and I'll ask Councilmember John Campbell to please pray for council.
Let's pray. Father in heaven, we thank you for our city and for, excuse me, we ask that you would bless our city. We thank you for blessing it. We pray for your continued blessing on it. We pray for your wisdom, patience, and clarity as we consider these issues brought before us, this council tonight. Grant us grace and help us to always put the needs of our neighbors above those of our own. We pray this in your name. Amen.
All right, first up, we have approval of our minutes from our previous meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from our regular council meeting on June the 18th of 2026?
Motion to approve.
Is that you, Catherine? Motion by Catherine. Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion carries. Thank you for that. Next up, we have citizen participation. Our first speaker is Raymond Rochester. Our second is Richard Badka. For you guys, sorry, we usually get to walk around a little bit and mingle, but if this is your first time speaking to council, you have 5 minutes, and I will start a timer, so you won't think I'm a meanie when I shut you off, but when the timer goes off, your time will end. This is not a discussion with council. You get to present to us, and we're here to listen, and if there's a follow-up from staff or from myself or council member, we will let you know after the meeting. So again, first up, Raymond Rochester, and this is regarding flock safety. And Raymond, if you'll please let us know, you signed up 24 hours, and so you checked the box for citizen resident, but technically you're not, which is fine. Most people don't know if they're residents or not. I usually say if the city of TR picks up your trash, you probably get to vote in the city limits. But yeah, we appreciate you being here, and if you'll just state your name and address, and then give me a second to start my timer. We appreciate you being here. All right, go ahead, thank you.
My name is Raymond Rochester. I live at 252 East Old Mill Road, Travelers Rest. First, I want to make it clear that I respect this council and our city staff and our police department. I believe Travelers Rest is such a wonderful community because of the people dedicated to serving it. Over the past several days, I've spoken with Travelers Rest residents. One thing that I've consistently heard is I didn't know that these cameras were being installed until they were up. Whether that was because the information wasn't widely known or because many of us just missed it, the result is the same. Many citizens feel that they never had the opportunity to learn about this system or share their thoughts before it became part of our community. My concern is not only with the cameras themselves, but about the process. When the city adopted a technology that has implications for privacy and affects everyone who lives, works, or travels through our community, I believe every reasonable effort should have been made to ensure the public was aware beforehand and had the opportunity to ask questions and express their opinion. I also want to be clear that I'm not standing here accusing anyone in this room or anyone in our police department of abusing these cameras. My concern is about the future, not the character of the people serving our city today. I understand that there may be policies in place that prevent abuse, but policies are subject to change. Councils change, police chiefs change, administrations change. The question I believe needs to be asked is not only is this system being used appropriately today, but also what does this system make possible for tomorrow? I don't believe we should evaluate the government capability solely on the intention of the people who create it. We should also consider how it could be used by future leaders long after we're all gone. To better understand this system and our city's relationship with it, I've submitted a Freedom of Information Act request seeking records related to the cameras, including their approval, cost, policies, contracts, and safeguards. When that information is received, I hope the citizens here tonight and anyone who is interested will take time to review it alongside me. Regardless of where we stand on this issue, I believe an informed community is a stronger community. I would respectfully ask this council to consider hosting a public forum dedicated to this issue, a meeting where residents can ask questions, hear directly from city leadership and law enforcement, and have an open, respectful discussion about the flock safety camera system. Whether someone supports these cameras or opposes them or is still undecided, I believe our community deserves to have that conversation together. And finally, I would like to ask this council to remember that discussions like this are not just theoretical. Today, 2 Greer police officers were terminated over allegations of misusing the flock camera system. SLED is currently reviewing these allegations. I do not suggest that anything improper has occurred here in Travelers Rest. I mention this because it reminds us that a system with this level of capability deserves transparency, accountability, and public trust. I hope this council continues to earn that trust by being transparent and welcoming an open public discussion and listening to the people of our community. Thank you, council, for your time, and thank you for your service to Travelers Rest.
Thank you, Mr. Rochester. I appreciate it.
Mayor, I assume several people in the room are here because of the same issue, but for those who don't know what a flock camera is, would you or Administrator Herman just like to give a one-sentence synopsis so everyone knows what we're talking about?
Thank you, Councilmember Byers. A flock camera is a license plate reading camera. It reads license plates of vehicles which have case numbers involved with open case numbers, so it can be tracked through with legal repercussions, I guess policing repercussions.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Mr. Richard Backa. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name. Calling Richard. All right, okay.
There are some people in the lobby. I don't know if they're, just in case.
Okay. I don't believe Mr. Richard Backa is here. You have to sign up 24 hours in advance. I do appreciate everyone being here and the Facebook advocacy group that maybe brought you all here. But again, this is not a discussion for tonight, and it's not on the agenda. We actually discussed flock cameras a while ago. So I don't want you to be disappointed and sit here through this whole council meeting because we will not address it tonight. It's not on the agenda. So all that to say, if you came for that discussion, it's not a discussion. We just had 2 people address council or 1. So again, I don't want you to be mad and sit through this whole agenda. You're welcome to stay. I would love for you guys to get educated on the other things that we have for the city. So I will leave it with there. All right, next we will move into ordinances and resolutions for second reading. We have, let's see, is this, hold on one second. Councilmember James, that's you. Thank you.
Ordinance and resolutions for second reading. I have 5A, make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance O-09-26, zoning map amendment, Greenville County unzoned to City of Travelers Rest R15 concerning Williams Road. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a brief description. A zoning map amendment for Williams Road was sent to full council, annexing approximately 8.15 acres into the City of Travelers Rest and zoning it R-15 residential. Staff and Planning Commission recommended approval. Do we have any questions?
Heard that. Any questions, further discussion? For our guests tonight, these are ordinances and resolutions for second reading, so we had first reading last month. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, motion carries. Thank you for that. Next, we have zoning map amendment. Councilmember James, that's you again.
Make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance O-10-26, zoning map amendment of 501 North Main Street from C2 to R10. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I'll give a brief description. A zoning map amendment for 501 North Main Street from C2 Commercial to R10 Residential was sent to full council with staff and Planning Commission recommending approval.
Okay, any further discussion? Second reading, North Main. Okay, all in favor? All right, motion carries. Thank you, Catherine. Next, we'll move into our committee reports. Again, we have committee prior to this meeting, and so this is a summary of the committee meetings that we had. So first, we have Personnel Committee Chair Chris.
The Personnel Committee met on July 6th to approve the June 18th minutes. That's all to report.
Right. Public Works Committee Chair Lane.
The Public Works Committee met on July 6th to approve the June 18th minutes. Streetlight pads are being installed along North Poinsett Highway. Road construction is expected to be completed within 4 to 6 weeks, with Greenville Water set to finish its work within the week. The new traffic signal at Tubbs Mountain Road is now operational, yay. The next glass recycling event is scheduled for September 12th. That yay was not in the notes, by the way. Greenville Sports League has begun using the football field at Gateway Park, and the Travelers Rest Youth Association will begin using both fields at Chico Park. The diagonal crossing is complete, but activation has been delayed due to a computer issue. Once the issue is resolved, the crossing will be operational. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Lisa. Public Safety Committee Chair Byers.
The Public Safety Committee met on July 6th to approve the June 18th minutes. The committee reviewed the following from the June public safety reports. For police, officers made 8 DUI arrests last month, all resulting from proactive traffic enforcement. National Night Out, coordinated by Officer Henry Blake, is scheduled for August 4th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Trailblazer Park. That's an event open to the public. We'd love to see you there. Elizabeth Wins will graduate from the Police Academy on July 24th and will begin 12 weeks of field training upon her return. For fire, training hours increased last month due to joint auto aid training with 5 neighboring fire departments. The Emergency Operations Center was activated during the drone show with emergency management, public works, EMS, and police operating on a shared communications channel. The coordinated response allowed lost children and a missing elderly attendee to be quickly reunited with their families. The fire department is fully staffed. For building, June permitting activity increased due to the LIVA commercial project, which generated a one-time boost in permit revenue after paying its fees in full.
Planning and Development Committee Chair James.
The Planning and Development Committee met on July 6th to approve the June 18th minutes. The committee reviewed the following. White Hawk Meadows Phase 2 received its first round of land development review comments. Construction will begin after the approved plans are received. Seven Brew is nearing opening after receiving its certificate of occupancy. The Gateway Fitness Court ribbon cutting occurred on Thursday, July 9th. Council and admin staff were in attendance. Phase 1 of the Dicey Langston Heritage Garden at Spring Park is scheduled for completion by August 1st, with irrigation, landscaping, and stonework progressing. A grand opening for the Charters of Freedom Monument is planned for September 17th. And that is the end of
Thank you,
my
Catherine. I
report.
appreciate it. Next, Chair Baumgartner, review Ways and Means Financial Report.
The Ways and Means Committee met on July 6th to approve the June 18th minutes, and a glass recycling grant was approved to seek funding for a permanent glass collection container. That ends my report.
Thank you, Grant. Ordinances and resolutions for first reading. Again, as I was mentioning, second reading, we've already discussed it. First reading, it's come out of committee, which you guys were sitting in earlier, and so now it's available for first reading. So we have ordinances for Travelers Rest homeowners tax relief and critical project sales tax referendum. Councilmember Baumgartner.
All right, I make a motion to approve ordinance O-11-26 for the Travelers Rest homeowners tax relief and critical projects sales tax referendum.
Okay, you've heard that motion. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, second by Lisa.
All right, let me give us a little bit of a breakdown of all of this. Some of it's going to be the same, but for those that may not have heard the Ways and Means Committee to start off with, the Ways and Means Committee has passed on to full council for discussion the question of collecting a 1% sales tax as a referendum question in November. We are voting to send the question for a 1% city sales tax on to voters of the Travelers Rest by placing that question on the November voting ballot. It seems like the question of this tax has come up quickly, and indeed it has. The South Carolina legislature at the end of May passed this legislation, leaving little time for municipalities it applies to of placing a question on the November ballot without acting quickly. TR City Council is not adding the tax. This is not a vote by council in favor of the tax. Our voting on this measure is to send the question to the voters of the city to decide by a yes or no vote if they want to add a 1% tax, which will by law provide homeowner property tax relief and will fund certain critical city projects. This is a referendum question, and a referendum means the city has not voted to place this tax in place. Rather, the question is being passed on to the voters to voice their opinion by a yes or no vote. In the presentation, Shannon showed that research is showing that around 60% of the retail revenues that are collected within the city of Travelers Rest are generated from external visitors outside of the city of Travelers Rest. So that's a large percentage of folks that are not inside the city. This means that those visiting Travelers Rest from outside the city will contribute significantly to the revenue generated by the tax, and a portion of that revenue must be and will be distributed back to the property owners in Travelers Rest as property tax relief. If the question is approved by council, this will be the only question on the ballot that provides for property tax relief to homeowners in the city of Travelers Rest. This tax allows those visiting the city to contribute to the financial tax relief of our homeowners. Our goal is to not only provide property tax relief, but to also allow those visiting the city to contribute to the funding of the listed essential or critical infrastructure and related facilities projects. As I'd said during the committee meeting, Greenville County Council does have the option of also adding a 1% sales tax option as a separate referendum question. The difference between what the county may do and what we do is that the county has no tax relief, and we don't know what, if any, of their projects will be for Travelers Rest if it gets to that point. Again, this isn't about just raising sales tax. It's about providing well-deserved property tax relief to our city homeowners and the city funding essential or critical infrastructures benefiting our residents and those who also travel to the city to enjoy what Travelers Rest has to offer. The Travelers Rest 1% referendum question of providing property tax relief and completing critical projects is designed to capture those outside the city that come into our town to spend their money at our retail businesses and use our services like our police and fire protection, our roads and parks. They will also be contributing to the funding of essential or critical infrastructure for Travelers Rest. This tax would begin May 1, 2027 and will end April 30, 2035. The property tax relief will be only for owner-occupied residential property. And again, the county proposal, if one develops, will have no property tax relief. Public input has been included as a part of this, and in fact, Ms. Shannon, tell me if I am correct that the projects on our Tier 1 and Tier 2 list were derived from a combination of staff input, previous council workshops, council member input, and the TR Parks Master Plan. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So even though we haven't had any defined input into where we are right now with the list has been defined by citizen participation, and we will have more citizen participation on Tuesday, August 6th, right here at City Hall for a workshop and public hearing. That's what I have for an overview.
Okay, thank you, Chair Baumgartner. And just to say again, Ways and Means was limited for discussion to that committee for time's sake. So we'll open up to full council for questions regarding first reading for this referendum.
Okay, thank you. So first, thank you for this plan. I really much appreciate it. I have a question. What's the process if we have edits to the ordinance or the title of what's there? What is the process for that? Do we do this here, email?
Councilmember Chris, at this point, we would be able to talk about them in the public workshop, and you would need to make an amendment to the ordinance as it reads, including the project list, either tonight or at our second reading.
Okay, just as we're thinking about things, I don't have to make the amendment tonight, and it's a tiny change I'm suggesting, but just Travelers Rest homeowner tax relief and critical project sales tax, just not homeowners as apostrophe, just homeowner tax relief, because I just think it's easier to see. Also, I have a question. Would it be more effective for Travelers Rest homeowner tax rebate or tax relief? And that's to council, just to think about is making sure that however we communicate is very clear to what people are voting on. So that's one thing. So we can make a list after the workshop, then we can make amendments and things of that nature. Will we get a copy of that PowerPoint?
Yes.
Would that also be shared with the community?
Yes, we could do that. Absolutely.
I think that would be great because I think it really breaks down a lot of things. I think it's very helpful.
Councilmember Chris, just to add on to that, we are intending to have a web page go active in the next day or two with additional information. We could add this to that.
That's wonderful. Thank you. The other thing, are they going to get the list that we have, which has the project list as we're looking at it right now? This one?
Yes, that is actually in your packet. It's
Oh, yes.
online on the agenda, yes.
The other thing I want to know, when we look at this specific list here, can we add a little details? Like, for instance, on the first one, on Tier 1, Trailblazer Regional Pond with walking sidewalks. So just people know that, just those tiny details. Or with a splash pad, should it be Trailblazer Park splash pad, so people know where they are? Just little nuances to this list so people can clearly see what it is and where it's located. And some of it's like that and some of it isn't. I'm also happy to provide some edits about that too.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure it's clear and people get a full view. Because if I see pond versus pond with sidewalks and a walking path, that gives me a different thought about what we're moving forward with. Thank you all.
I have two questions. First, in the section 4, where it's the referendum question so that particular question, the way it's worded, which starts with must 1% sales and ends with the yes and no boxes, is that the exact question that will be on the referendum that citizens will be reading and voting on?
Councilmember Guernier, yes, it is.
Okay. So that question, the way I see it written, it does mention that tax liability, but it doesn't necessarily mention anything about that 20% or specifics. Is that is something that maybe, I'm not sure if there was a reason, that might be a question for Robbie, why that was not included, and it was just really the information about the infrastructure, everything that's on Exhibit A.
The act specifically says this is what the question is.
Okay, so
But
that's,
it doesn't give you the ability to enhance it. It just says this is what your question is.
Okay.
So you had to follow that.
And can I interrupt, Cheryl? And this Exhibit A is not included with, like, add the ballot, for example. This is information we need to send. Okay, great. Sorry, Cheryl, go ahead.
oh, yeah, no problem. The other question I had was under Section 8, at the very bottom of the page, it talks about the construction contracts for 70% of all projects. Is that 70% like a by project count, or would that be by dollar count?
It's 70% of all projects in a given funding tier, so it would be probably dollar amount.
So 70% of that dollar amount per like Tier 1.
I
with-
shouldn't jump in front of our attorney, especially when I have them here.
Okay, so to be clear, in Tier 1, once 70% of that dollar value has been funded, there's the option, the way it reads, to be able to work on projects in the next funding tier, correct? The way it reads. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
So for the referendum, we're not allowed to change any words on it, or we can revise or edit something?
The act specifically says must be substantially as below. And I think we added taxpayer relief in there, and that's about as far as we dare to do it.
Can we change the title of the referendum? Are we allowed to edit the title?
I don't think there's actually going to be a title. That's our title for the ordinance, but I don't think there's a title for the referendum on the ballot.
Just a question.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Question will list as it is written within our packet.
Within the quotations, yeah.
Yes.
What other questions do we have?
I just wanted to give a clarification, just in case people need it. This is, the property tax relief goes to owner-occupied homes at the 4% rate.
That is correct.
Oh, not 6%, at 4%.
4%, I said 4.
I was just getting clarity, so not second homes, only, you know how people have, okay.
Councilmember Chris, it's a great delineation. So a second home is not considered an owner-occupied home. It is considered a commercial property at that point and taxed at the 6% rate.
Can I just clarify the dates again, just for everyone to have? The public hearing would be August the 6th. I'm sorry, the workshop would be August the 6th. And what would be the date?
August 10th is your final reading,
Okay,
second reading.
so we'd have some time, not much, but some time in between there to absorb what the community input is in order for us to have the second reading.
Yes, you do, Councilmember O'Meara. And also, the public could communicate by emailing Carson or myself or any of you, any of their thoughts as they go forward. So they don't have to wait till the workshop and public hearing. That is certainly the opportunity when it's invited to come in the public setting.
I think it's helpful for me to kind of pull up for a second. So summary for residents who are TR residents in this room. About a month and a half ago, the state legislators in Columbia gave certain cities a tool that they can use to add a 1% sales tax. It had to have tax relief, which means you as a property owner who lives here have to benefit from this. And then the shared use is with sales tax. So people that come into the city, as Shannon explained to us, is a good percentage. We are a tourist destination to a good extent. And then even people outside city limits that are still in 29690 are also contributing and purchasing things than people that come into the city from Marietta and Cleveland. And so sharing that tax burden with them, but also an offset with property taxes, which is really nice for us. But then you might know that we acquired 2 parks this past year. So parks is a primary concern of council. We appreciate the county's donation to us for Gateway Park and Trailblazer, but it did not come with any money. And so we have worked on a master plan. What do we want for those parks? Getting input from the community. But again, there wasn't a dollar attached to it. So I think this is a tool for council to consider sharing that burden with the visitors who are coming in and using our amenities, as Chair Baumgardner mentioned. Also, we're a tax relief, but then getting some really cool infrastructure projects that we dream about. I think one of the things that makes TR successful is we do a lot with a little, and so our budget's what, 10 million? 10?
That is correct.
The whole year budget is a little over 10 million, and this is 15 million potential that we could put into our parks, sidewalks, and so there's a nice benefit to that. And I was thinking as a resident here, the $60 difference that the average, I'm like, $60 reduction in taxes, and I get some really nice amenities and upgrades to our park feels like a nice deal. So just trying to put it in layman's terms. I know we got a lot of details going on. All right, what are the questions we have for our council? Again, this is first reading. So as we mentioned, we'll have a workshop on the 6th. The city staff will push that out to everyone, include this presentation, and start to get feedback. And then for the workshop, and then have a final reading on the 10th, assuming it goes forward. So it's quick, but we have a little bit of time to talk to the public. Okay. What other discussion?
I
Questions?
think it's good to reiterate that gas, food, and prescriptions are exempt. I guess unprepared, how do you, groceries?
Unprepared.
Unprepared food are exempt
Yeah,
from
thank you for that,
the
Lisa.
sales
Yeah,
tax.
because I think there's always a concern to make sure that we're not affecting people on fixed incomes. So it's nice that this also reduces for homestead, but also we don't want to create an additional burden for people on a fixed income or Social Security. Yeah. Anything else? All right, motion to send to second reading. All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you for that. Old business, we have none. New business, hold on, let me flip my pages over here a little bit. Oh, wait a minute, I jumped. Hold on one second. No. New business, yes. Jessica's like, you better say my presentation, Brandy. Okay, new business, we have City of Travelers Rest Economic Development presentation by Jessica Presley. Thank you so much. Come on up. We appreciate you being here. Jessica, I'll let you introduce yourself. Come here.
My name is Jessica Presley. First of all, thank you so much for having me here tonight and having me this summer. It's been a blessing to work with such an excellent, innovative, and hardworking team. Unbelievable, really. But for those that maybe are not so familiar with me, my name is Jessica Presley. I recently graduated from Clemson this spring with a double degree in economics and management HR, and I will begin my Master of Public Administration with an emphasis in economic and community development and a grad minor in public policy this fall at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. So a little bit on my background, I've had internships where I've worked in law, business management, human resources, AI, student affairs, and government. And I'm from the area, so born, raised, learned, worked in Travelers Rest and around here, and I hope to come back to upstate South Carolina and work in public service. I care a lot about the region. I hope to do research in the region, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to be here right now. So, speaking about my interest in economic and community development, I was tasked to work with the Greater Travelers Rest Chamber of Commerce this summer. So we're working on developing and strengthening a beneficial mutual partnership with them. So contributing to the success of our local businesses, working on utilizing the strengths that we already have, utilizing the events that we already have, and then we're doing this through benchmarking. So we're looking at other peer municipalities and then their chambers of commerce, also using Placer AI, which is a foot traffic survey analytics platform, so we can utilize their economic matrices to see where the opportunities are, how we can strengthen as a community, and how we can utilize the strengths we already have. So moving forward, you'll see a little screenshot of some of the benchmarking we've done. This is a comparison of the dues. So looking at due structures, looking at mission statements, looking at what we offer to our members and to our community, so how we can serve and partner with the Chamber of Commerce to strengthen them as an economic development arm so that they can pour into our local businesses, so that the local businesses can pour into our community, and just again and again, we cycle and create an authentic and improved Travelers Rest. And through this research and benchmarking, I stumbled upon this article, not really, I was looking for it, but which were case studies in small town development. And no surprise really, but it was from the UNC School of Government. I think research is wonderful and obviously very valuable, but even more so when it's context dependent. And so many of these studies were done in North Carolina. And as City Administrator Herman already mentioned, we are a recreational tourism-based economy. So we bring in a lot of people, and that helps our businesses, which is separate and different than how like Greer or Greenville or Spartanburg operates with their industry. So I took some notes from these articles, and one of the main things I highlighted was that community development is economic development in small towns like Travelers Rest. So how we pour into our school systems and our training centers and our university right here, Furman University, and also our communities outside of the typical 9 to 5. So our retirement groups and people that are moving here, where as we'll see later, we have a lot of growth. A lot of those are retirees and they're highly skilled. How we pour into that is how we create our community and our economic development. Not only that, but it's collaborative governance. So how we work with our Chamber of Commerce and how we work with our destination marketing organization, Visit Travelers Rest, to have a cohesive brand, to bring people into Travelers Rest that understand what Travelers Rest is. On top of that, as it says up there, small towns with the most dramatic outcomes are proactive and future-oriented, and clearly we see tonight Travelers Rest is. So move forward on that. And then continuing with this article, successful community economic development strategies are guided by broadly held local visions. I wanted to highlight on that because I think Travelers Rest has done a great job in having this with our pillars and our core values, smart growth, connectivity, arts and culture, and small town character. We all know them. But also this pours into our community's competitive advantage. So if we have a broadly held and innovative strategy for our competitive advantages, such as the Swan Private Trail, but also authentic local businesses and our downtown markets, and not only that, but our safety. Travelers Rest is known as a safe town. We can utilize that to profit off of it and pour back into our town. So outside of that case study, I did want to highlight two things as we talked about them a lot this summer, but heritage tourism, riding on the Dicey Langston wave, and congratulations to everyone that went so well. But I found this interesting article about historic downtowns and rural economies. So though we may not be as rural as we once were, people come to TR and they want to treasure that. And long-term residents want to treasure that sense of historic place. So how can we utilize adaptive reuse or similar tendencies moving forward, such as how Tandem Creperie, a very successful business, was the post office in 1944, to make sure we not only honor where we came from, but, again, increase profit into the town with what we have. And then another thing outside of the case studies is that I was able to go downtown and speak with some of our Main Street merchants. This was something because, one, not everyone sees their email, so you can't really ignore someone when they're face-to-face with you, or miss them. But some of the feedback I gathered when I was talking to them about how we can better serve them, both as the city and as the chamber, was that they really loved and wanted more of sidewalks and connectivity, which great timing to talk about this after everything we just talked about. But they also wanted direct and consistent communication, even mentioning tangible communication, such as like a community bulletin board, or more ways that they would run into the communication if they were missing things on their phone, since many of them had missed my emails or different things like that. And then they also had really positive responses to the Trailside Trolley. No surprise, connectivity, another positive way that we can hit one of our core values. And we see this again and again with partnership and collaborative governance, how we work with the trolley, then works with the chamber to pour into TR. And then we can hit the next. So as we've hit on a lot of these numbers, I mentioned Placer.ai, the survey analytic foot traffic data. We pulled this as I was looking into ways to work with the chamber, and an idea came to make an economic development webpage hub. So this will later become a webpage that will go on our Travelers Rest website, which the chamber can connect to our website. Again, this partnership and collaborative governance, so that as people come and they want to build or resize or rehome in Travelers Rest, they know the platform that they are coming to. They know their opportunities, and they know if they're going to be a good fit or not. And we want them to be a good fit. We want to attract people that are Travelers Rest branded. So as you'll see, no surprise, Travelers Rest has changed a lot in the last 5 years, 17.4% growth rate. Pretty large, but you'll also notice that we have a high income relative to the state, both median and mean income, with the mean income averaging about 107 by 2027, so higher than the state, and we're very educated. 40.4% of our population has a bachelor's degree or higher, and this doesn't even account for the new people moving in, maybe such in Pinestone, that have 44% of a bachelor's degree or higher. So I also want to harp really quickly on how well the Swamp Rabbit Trail does. We talked about the competitive advantage of something like a Swamp Rabbit Trail, and we see here $7 million in economic impact brought in by that, not counting also how Trailblazer Park is bringing in thousands and thousands of people with their farmers market, or how we're having 1.4 million people coming in for overnight stays and visits. And as we point towards that, tools like this also help us identify a 13% leakage in boutique lodging, or not even boutique lodging, but just lodging. We're losing nights. And this shows us an area where we could improve. We could bring in vendors like that have lodging and hotels and accommodations, which would then bring in hospitality tax, accommodations tax, which benefit the city and benefit the residents. This data is useful. So what does all of this mean? One, I'm sure I talked very fast. I typically talk fast anyway, so I apologize for that. And I also gave you a lot of information. But it means utilizing the existing strengths we have. We don't always have to change the landscape we have to maximize our economic development and our community development, and there's a lot at our fingertips. We know that TR is very blessed with its different opportunities. We also know that there's a call to bridge the connectivity gap between Trailblazer Park and Main Street and residents and visitors and new residents even versus old. So how can we do that both electronically and physically, as we've talked about tonight? And then targeting strategic opportunities. We know leveraging these insights, we can bring in different hotels and lodging and the Chamber of Commerce. How can we partner with them so that they can target businesses with their assets that they have? And then lastly, unifying the local vision. Again, as you are a council, and unifying the vision of the town with newcomers, the university, the chamber, and continuing to move forward to have the vision of TR that we want it to have. So that's everything I had for you in a nutshell, but I'm happy to elaborate on anything, and I'm happy to take any questions. So thank you.
Anyone on council have any questions for Jessica?
I want to say thank you for all your information. It was very helpful. One of the questions I actually had asked Shannon this week was how much the Swamp Rabbit Trail economic input have we had? And that was in your report, so don't have to get back to me on that. But that's very helpful. I was wondering, it was 7.4 million. Is that to date?
I had 7 million, and I had found it in an article. I think that was actually about 2 years ago,
Okay.
and that was the most that I had found specifically for the Swamp Rabbit that was listed.
Okay.
But I'm happy to share it with City Administrator Herman, that she could share with you.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
This is really impressive, Jessica. I was thinking, this is probably like a very expensive consultant report that we would have paid. So kudos to Shannon for bringing in for internship. But this is really valuable information, and I think it's helpful for council to see the data. And there's a lot of moving pieces in that. You did a great job putting it together. If you were to get a grade on this, I would have given you an A+, just FYI.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mayor,
What
I have a question for Jessica. Thank you. This was awesome. Communication is something that we really prioritize and value and are always trying to tweak. So I appreciate the feedback about merchants wanting direct and consistent and potentially tangible communication. You said bulletin boards. Were there any other suggestions that were presented by them or you?
We talked about consistent social media, which we offer, and the conversation I had was that people just either weren't aware of our app because I mentioned the app, are you on the app? And they were like, what app? And I was like, what app? Anyways, so maybe pushing the app more so. Social media, the one feedback I mentioned with that, and these are people that were, they said they use social media, but that they felt like it's easy to get lost in scrolling. So I am working with the chamber to send out a monthly newsletter that has city updates in it because the chamber members were calling for city-specific updates or a city liaison. So they now have a newsletter template that I helped create that would be a monthly connection to these businesses, which hopefully maybe that, information will pass along to constituents and users. But other than that, I'm not sure, other than the tangible impact. They did say specifically tangible impact maybe on the Swamp Rabbit, like a community bulletin on the Swamp Rabbit, which we have, I believe. So anyways, other than that, I think people just get lost in the scrolling feed. I think the website does do a good job once I pointed to it. So.
Jessica, thank you for this presentation. I was interested, where did you get a lot of this data, or is there a software or tool that you use in your industry to get the data?
The data, most of it was gathered from Placer AI, which is, the city has a subscription, it's a private enterprise, but it's foot traffic analytic data, so you're welcome to, it's public, anyone can use it. It's a pretty popular platform, I believe, but most of the data came from that.
Thank you so much.
This was absolutely wonderful. I love that you bring up the sidewalks, this connectivity issue, when that is a big part of what we're looking at on this sales tax side of things. If we can help residents inside the city understand that that's what we're trying to do, is bring more connectivity in all this. But I'll tell you, the shocker in what you just said showed us was the leakage in our overnight stays. That's huge.
I wrote down your community development is economic development. That's a good line, and it makes sense because, I mean, the Swamp Rabbit Trail, Main Street, definitely led to economic development. It's great.
The leakage and what you have, was that not picked up by Airbnbs, and was that correct? Is that?
It's overnight stay. Well, the leakage is considered overnight stays that are lost within our municipality. So it's not saying, oh, these were overnight. From my understanding, it wouldn't be leakage that was misnumbered because of Airbnbs. That's just what we don't pick up on the city. This is just overnight leakage lost entirely. So it's counting those that are staying in Airbnbs. It's anyone that's staying overnight. We're just having people come in and visit and leave and primarily go to Greenville and stay in Greenville. So there shouldn't be an error because of miscounting Airbnbs with this.
I thought that was something too interesting, Lisa, when we did the Dicey event and the drone show, we had the hotels sold out, but I don't remember us being very intentional about having one event that they have to stay in Travelers Rest overnight, which was something that Wendy with Topsoil was thinking about too, so smart.
I would love to commend you. This was wonderful. You are incredibly well-spoken and communicate very clearly and simply and in terms for everybody to understand. So thank you, and that was amazing. It's very difficult to do that sometimes. I was wondering, and this is more of, I guess, a general question, what was something that really, really stuck out to you when you were doing this, whether it was a statistic or maybe an idea that popped into your head from what you were looking at and reading through when you were doing a lot of the research for this with the chamber?
I would say primarily just that one thing that stuck out because I was working with the chamber is the impact of the Christmas parade that they run every year and how they have that big event. And then I was comparing to a lot of different chambers, so I was looking mostly in Western North Carolina because of the visitors type and how a lot of Western North Carolina residents come down and visit Travelers Rest and vice versa. And how those chambers of commerce, their big deal every year is they run an event. So they run like an arts and crafts festival, or they run some type of vendor event. And then the Christmas parade brings a big draw. I don't know if we call it like the annual Christmas parade as much as we could. We don't market it as much as like the annual Saluda Arts and Crafts Festival, or the Coon Dog Day Festival that just happened in Saluda that brings in 20,000 people, or the Starwood Festival in Black Mountain that brings in 20 to 30,000 people, just like the Christmas parade does for us. So the main idea I was thinking of with that is, are we able to have an event similar, like a Main Street event that ties together Main Street and then pushes people that come in to the restaurants. So maybe we don't have food trucks. Maybe we say go to the restaurants around us, but we have art vendors on the street so that they want to come back and explore in those types of ways. And can we pay some type of ode to history? A lot of people have brought up the Corn Festival that used to occur, and can we bring that back? But how do we do that and still honor where it came from and bring in new visitors? So that was the most interesting thing that I found, was that then the sheer number of people that came in for that. But are we even marking that as much as we could be? How successful could it be for long-term economic impact?
Actually, I'd be interested, have you talked with the chamber about just that? Because I've been around for a long time and never have I really heard, I've kind of heard it talk about the annual Christmas parade, but not really marketing that way. Was that well received by the chamber when you talked with them about it?
Yes, there's definitely interest in it. I think some of the difficulties we're having with scheduling is that the chamber is purely volunteer-based, and so there's maybe some capacity limits. But it is an interest, and I will continue to work on it until my time is, complete here. So
That's their event, not
yes,
our
it
event.
is.
That's
Yes.
their event.
We just tracked it through, its impact on Travelers Rest as a city and how it impacts our wider city. But it is their event, which was the reason I was looking into it originally, was how we could expand it for TR.
Nice work.
This is really great, Jessica. And also, other cities have economic development departments. And so to have you put some focus and brain space behind this, I think supports Shannon and the whole team. I feel like we're all on the economic development team, but this is really, really great. So thank you again. We appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you very much. I appreciate y'all. Thank you
And
all.
we're going to take full credit for the City of Travelers Rest for your success as you go on in your career, since you're homegrown here. So,
Well, thank you.
if that's
It's been
okay,
a blessing.
yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you all.
all right, thank you, Jessica.
Mayor
Appreciate
Amadon,
it.
may I jump in for just
Yeah,
a second?
please.
I want to thank Jessica. She said it was a blessing for her to be here. She's clearly a blessing for us to have. The amount of work and the quality of work that she was able to produce, and really step in and fill shoes that we couldn't possibly have picked up this summer, and really brought some great traction to the development of the partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. I think this is critical as we go forward. It's something we made the commitment to you to be stepping into in this year. We have started a liaison with the Chamber, but Jessica has taken this above and beyond. So massive kudos to you. And when I come begging for more money for Jessica, you'll know why.
I was
And
gonna say,
we will say
maybe
we'll
when you
try.
graduate, we will have a position in economic development. for sure.
Shannon, is she available next summer? Have you already asked her that?
Are you available next summer?
Yeah, you heard it here, folks. All right, well, thank you, Jessica, so much. We appreciate it. All right, we'll move on to approval of our glass recycling grant. I make a motion to approve the glass recycling grant. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second. Was that you, Cheryl?
Yes.
Okay, brief description. The city is seeking grant funding to purchase a permanent glass recycling collection container. The collected glass would continue to be transported to, is it bricolage?
Yes.
Oh, I got it right. Dynamics for processing. Do you have any further discussion? Our glass recycling is a big deal for the city of Travelers Rest. I think our Public Works team does a great job, and the demand is there. And so if we get it, this will be a nice addition. Anything else? Further discussion? All in favor? Okay, motion carries. Thank you for that. All right, and then lastly, we have safe designation by the City of Travelers Rest. Chief Ford will now present the safe designation to the police department. It's exciting. Is it safe or is it S-A-F-E? S-A-F-E. Okay, I knew it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you for being here. We
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you for allowing me to be here today. Today is a really good day. My name is Sabrina Gast. I am the statewide forensic nurse director with the South Carolina Victim Assistance Network. I don't know if you're familiar with SCVAN, but SCVAN's been around since 1984, and we are the primary victim services group in the state of South Carolina. We were created in response to the Victims Crime Bill that the governor signed in 1984. My role as the forensic nurse is to work with hospitals and communities to ensure that victims of crime, sexual assault, domestic violence, child abuse are seen and treated by professionals who have specialized training. We have worked really hard in trying to get these hospitals to work with us. You were very fortunate in your area that you have a dedicated program out of the Greenville Hospital System that travels to you. One of the things that we have found is that the sexual assault victims don't always present immediately to a hospital. They can come to a fire department, they can come to the police department, they can go to the advocacy center. They may show up at the city council meeting. You never know where they're going to show up. And what we wanted to ensure was that no matter where that victim presented first, whoever greeted that victim had a basic level of understanding of sexual assault care, evidence collection and preservation, trauma-informed questioning, strangulation issues, human trafficking issues, which we include in the training. So Travelers Rest Police Department has gone above and beyond what we have required. We require 75% of their staff to go through a training that we offer, and they have gotten 95% or 100? 96%, yay. 96% of their staff have gone through this training. It's a free training, but it gives them a basis or a basic level of how to take care of sexual assault and domestic violence victims. So I'm very excited to be here. It is very special. They have gone above and beyond. This is a voluntary certification designation, so we are very excited that the police department decided that they wanted to be a part of this. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah, congratulations.
And the person that put all this together,
We-
Teresa Howard.
We agreed not to brag on Teresa anymore because we thought it might be going to her head, but obviously.
This was an agency effort. Every officer had to go through the training. It was extensive training as well, learning how to preserve evidence and treat victims and prosecuting and collecting special things that can be used in forensic exams. So it was not just me. I just did the application. We were accepted. Everybody did the work. So I'm proud that the police department has this.
This sounds like a big deal and intensive training, and it's something you hope you never use, but knowing that you guys have that information in your brain is a big deal. And thank you so much for traveling and come presenting. Do we need to get some maybe formal pictures? Yes, okay, all right.
Well, it's growing continuously. We have 12 police departments throughout.
So just 12 police departments as of right now. We're one of the first 12, so.
Ready for the, you doing the picture? Ready.
Go ahead. Go ahead, you first.
Can I be picky? I'll take a step this way. Alice, you gotta get in tighter, my friend. All right, 3, 2.
And we had to take modeling classes just to be on city council.
I always like refer to Shanice how we're standing, where my hands should go. Very excited for you. Very important one.
Yes, ma'am.
It was worth it. It's for a good cause.
Great, thank you for that. We rarely go this long for a city council meeting, so I appreciate everyone being patient. So now we have miscellaneous matters, our administrative update. City Administrator Shannon Herman.
Thank you, Mayor Amadon. I do have a couple things. First, I want to let you know we did have a website disruption early this afternoon. I believe that is resolved. I do not have the diagnostics on that yet. However, good news coming out of that, we did learn that we have 55 100 subscribers to our app. So for a town population of 7,000 plus, we're doing pretty well there. Also, great news, the street lights, the solar pedestrian street lights on Poinsett Highway have been installed. They still have a collar to come down on the breakaway poles per DOT standards. They have to be breakaway in case someone were to hit them. So those collars will be custom made to fit with the landscaping and topography, similar to what you see on Main Street. So just a little upgrading to be completed there, but that's a great advancement.
Thank you, Shannon. I know there's so many other things that you could talk about, but you're just being nice because you're
Speaking
trying
of
to
brief tonight.
trying to
Talked
scoot.
enough.
Does anyone on council have anything for the good of council? All right, motion to adjourn.
So move.
Lisa?
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you again for coming. We appreciate you all being here tonight. Thank you.
This is like my husband has his truck, like food that'll last for 10 years, you know, that it's like Mexican food, peanut butter pretzels. On the chair side.
Wow. Here, my hand on it.
Let's get, you know. They're phone pockets. I know, I've never opened one, but you're right, like. No, thank you, they're so. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. I love your my first one, but I appreciate that.
Yes, how did we do?
I guess it depends. Like, one of the nights is like
Yeah.
a baseball game.
It's okay.
Optional, so.
She was an expert on Robert's Rules of Law Quarter.